Hello everybody, my name is Jose. Welcome to another episode, or another video rather, on the Noppoo Lolita Spyder RGB here. And as you guys saw last episode, I covered the cherry, or rather the kale brown switches that were included with mine, as well as the LED backlighting options. Pardon the camera while it adjusts a little bit. But today I did want to go through and sort of discuss the keyboard itself. I had a few things of note over here. So I figured we would get started on talking about it and see what we can find out about it. So I bought this about a month ago now. This has been mine for, close to a month. And I found it on Amazon before the mass drop actually came around for it. So that being said, before the mass drop came around, I bought mine for $68.99 or $69.99 USD. And it was a great price. Got it on Amazon from Chorus KB. And it arrived the next day, I think, thanks to Amazon Prime. Yeah, it was the next day. And so, hasn't been a problem since. The packaging came through pretty quickly. And the packaging was very straightforward on this. It was just the keyboard. I'm trying to think of what else was included. I unfortunately don't have the packaging still. But the packaging was included with the keys and the keyboard all intact. The wiring was packed up and everything was in good shape. So, pretty straightforward. Like I said, for me, it was relatively well priced. I know Mass Drop recently had a Mass Drop group buy on them. I'm not sure if that is still around. I think actually, no, it has ended. But maybe it'll come back. Who knows? I think it's a good keyboard. Hopefully it does. So we'll just kind of get around to that hopefully sooner or later. So as I've already discussed in the past, the switches on this are pretty standard. I don't actually have a good microphone for testing it right now in order to show you what sort of sound the switches make, but as you can see, they are plate-mounted switches, and these plate-mounted switches are pretty well held on. They're using, like I said in the past, kale brown switches. For me, they come in several other variants as well, though. So I'm quite fond of mine, and I think it's kind of a good feel on these. The only complaints I have is sometimes they do feel a little bit tacky on like the backspace key, but that could just be my keycap set as well. Because I am using the Pulse keycaps. Unfortunately, I do not have the original keycaps that came with this. At one point, I did a few keyboard keycap swaps with some friends, and one of my friends had a G710, Logitech G710 Plus, and he had like 3 or 4 keys that were missing, so I just gave him the entire keycap set, and that left me short a set for one of my old ones, as far as a backup set goes. So in the past, basically the way things have rolled out now is, with my new keyboards, I've been having to take my custom set, moving it onto the new keyboard, and taking the stock set and putting it on the old one before selling it. So the stock set that came with this was actually on the WASD V2 10 keyless keyboard that I sold on the r/mech market Reddit subreddit. So that being said, the keycaps that came on here originally were okay. They were I believe they were ABS. They were semi-transparent for the lettering, unlike the Pulse, which is a completely opaque set, not intended for backlighting. But I still think the Pulse looks pretty good. You can see up here on the top rows, you can't really see the red and orange too well, which is fine with me. They aren't really my favorite colors anyways, but the really pretty colors that go well with Pulse are really visible, more visible in general. And this isn't just the camera capturing that coloration, how it's kind of hard to see. That really is how it is to the eye as well. So that being said, it's the keycaps that came with it were okay. They didn't stick on there very well. The stems for them were not very tightly fitted, so I did see that it would be very easy for them to slip off, and it was not the stems on the actual switches, because they easily came on and off of the WASD V2 that I put them on for selling later. So that being said, they're okay keycaps, but I think they're the same keycaps that the Royal Kludge uses. They're common keycaps. They're actually not very uncommon at all. It's the same set that a lot of these other ones are doing. So, as far as the keyboard itself, the build quality of it is pretty sturdy. I'd say it's about 4.5 pounds for the entire keyboard, which is decently hefty. It does not slide at all while typing for me. If I sit here and kind of type, pardon my fat fingers, but hey, they're big. But in general, when typing here, you can see that it does take a decent amount of force to push. As far as normal typing pressure goes, it does not slide around. And if I pop down the feet so that it sits flush on the desk, you can see that it still just as easily does not have any problem. So you have the top metal casing, and somebody brought up in one of my previous videos, and I will note it now a little bit. You can see there used to be a Lolita logo there. I actually took mine off using an alcohol swab and the back end of a keycap puller because it has that, well here, let me see if I can actually get it for you. There's the back end of the keycap puller actually proved to be very, very helpful in this situation because the design that I used, pardon the camera movement, for the keycap puller, I'll show you now. This was the keycap puller I used from WASD. I used this back end here and just put an alcohol swab wrapped around the edge and just scrubbed at it a whole lot. And it managed to come off after about 6 alcohol swabs. Pardon the noise. After about 6 alcohol swabs, the entire logo came off. And you can see there's still, however, a sort of shadow there, but it's really not noticeable when typing. It's only noticeable when you look straight at it from above. So in general, you know, that was not very difficult to get off. If I spent more time with it, maybe let it soak in the alcohol, or even some nail polish remover, I'm sure would do the job just as well. You know, in general, that can come off if you really, really, really hate it. And a lot of people do. I didn't really care about it either way, but someone asked, and I was like, well, I don't care if it stays, I don't care if it goes, so I'll test it for you. Who cares? So, that being said, we'll move on to the cable and cable routing. The cable itself is plenty long, and there are 3 cable routing options. You can go straight out the back, or to the right, or to the left. And it's kind of difficult to see. Let me see if I can get the lighting to adjust here. Maybe not. But as you can see, there we are. That's a decent angle. You can see some cable routing here, as well as over here. And of course, as I showed you earlier, it does also have on the bottom of it rubber feet for it to stand up on if you prefer the elevated layout like I do on this keyboard. My WASD, I actually liked it just fine flat, which is a little bit bizarre, I know. Normally, I haven't liked keyboards in flat in the past. Almost every keyboard I've had before the WASD V2, I had to have elevated, and it was the only exception I've had so far. Now, my only complaint is the way the bottom row is laid out. It is a standard bottom row keycap set. So as far as your keycaps go, these are all 125s. I believe it's 125. Yeah, these are all 125 modifiers. 1.25U, your units. But what bothers me is the actual functioning of the keys. As you can see, my keycap set here says that I have 2 Windows keys. I have one here and here. However, that is not the case at all. The way this works, default. I have done some registry edits inside of Windows to make it function the way it looks. But the way this is laid out is Control Windows Alt, and then of course Alt. This is your keyboard function key, so this is what I use to adjust the backlighting or whatnot. And this is the right-click dialog menu key. I don't care about that key. I liked it better like on the WASD V2 where there were dip switches on the back and you could determine this would be the Windows key, this would be your function key if you enabled that feature on the dip switch. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any special volume up, volume down features, which you do have on this keyboard. I will explain those in a moment. Nonetheless, you don't have any of those special features unless you enable the dip switch on the WASD V2. And that bothers me that this doesn't have that, but for a $69 keyboard, I can't really complain. Like I said, I used a few tools. Don't remember off the top of my head what I used. I might link it in the description if I remember, to basically remap this from being the dialog key, or the dialog menu key, to just another Windows key, right Windows to be exact, which is what this is, or labeled as, at least. So that worked out a lot better for me, and you know, it's still not perfect, but it is what it is. I'm trying to think of anything else left to discuss. Oh, like I said, it does have a few function keys that you can do, if I can remember them, and I don't think I can. You've got, let me see, I believe, there we go. So you have function, if you do function F5, that's mute and unmute. Function F6 is volume down, and then you have volume up. Function F2 is play pause, and then F3 is next, and F1 is previous. And I don't believe any of the other keys have a function yet, but I could be wrong. I don't actually know. The documentation that came with this keyboard in the packaging was in Chinese, so the only way I even knew about the backlight changing functionality was thanks to the description on the Amazon site from which I purchased it. So very, very lacking documentation there on the keyboard itself, but if you can figure it out using the Amazon description and whatnot, then you'll generally be all right in the end. So I guess the only last thing to mention is this has been an issue with a lot of keyboards lately as far as not being descriptive about this. This does use the standard style for your spacebar stabilizer. It uses, I believe it's called Co-Star is the style for this one, where it is a standard with the full widest ones. But I had no issues with my keycap set getting on this keyboard at all. None of the keys were incompatible, didn't fit, didn't have any issues. So if you want to replace the keys on this board, this is the board to do it with. It's super easy to do. But yeah, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video for this this keyboard. I think this will probably be the last one I do on this one, since it's not necessarily the highest top-of-the-line keyboard, and I am well aware of that. I had a few people note that I spent more on my keycap set than the keyboard itself. Trust me, I'm aware of the keyboard. I already had the WASD V2, but I bought the keyboard kind of just to see how much I liked Kale switches, and it was cheap. The RGB model was actually cheaper than the non-RGB model on Amazon, so I went with the RGB to see, hey, does the RGB actually work like RGB anyways? Come to find out, and to no surprise, it doesn't. They're all preset, but still a good keyboard. I don't have any problem with Kale switches. I'll go ahead and note that now. I went from MX to Kale, and I don't really notice too huge of a difference. After about 3 weeks, I've noticed that they kind of feel a little chalkier, but that's really the only difference I can make note of, is the fact that they feel a little more chalky than your standard Cherry MX. But other than that, if you're looking for a cheap place to start as far as a mechanical keyboard goes, I would definitely give this my suggestion. As far as something, if you already have one, it's alright, but it's not really a big excitement there. So yeah, that should be the end for this review. Hopefully coming up here soon, my Varmillo VA87 MR, I think is VA87 MR 10 keyless mechanical keyboard will be here for mass drop. I got the model with the black housing, white backlight, white Vortex keycaps, and Gatoron brown switches. I've never used Gatorons. I've heard they're actually better build quality than Cherry MX, but I don't actually know. When it arrives, I'll do an unboxing video, a review video, and then a sort of glamour shot video with my pulse set on there afterwards. But now that I know I'm going to be doing YouTube videos on these, I will not be putting my new set of keys on until after I've done my video on the review and the unboxing and a few other things of note. So look forward to the unboxing, and hopefully look forward to here in the next little while I'll get a new, better camera that doesn't try to autofocus all the time. And oh, I've got a new microphone on the way as well, one that'll actually clip to my shirt. It's a nice Rode mic, so hopefully that'll improve the quality a little bit. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.